It's been nearly 2 months since devastating flash floods hit central Iowa, but recovery efforts are ongoing. The U.S. Small Business Administration says it's continuing to accept applications for disaster recovery loans following July's flooding. And despite the agency's name, the program isn't limited to businesses. Homeowners, renters, nonprofits, and religious organizations may also qualify for assistance to help cover recovery costs.
There's a decline of customers or a decline in sales. And so when that happens, then the business is put into a financial strain where there are times where they might not be able to pay their financial obligations. And so things just kind of go downhill from there if that's the case.
The deadline for this round of funding is September 21st. In continuing coverage, the Iowa Cattlemen's Association is expressing more frustration about the effects of President Trump's plan to lower beef prices. Iowa's beef producers have largely been unhappy with Trump's plan to import beef tariff-free from other countries in an attempt to lower prices for consumers. The Cattlemen's Association says this would only be a short-term solution. It wouldn't address the issues facing the country's producers, like using technology to increase efficiency and combat labor shortages or recruiting new farmers. The CEO of the Cattlemen's Association says Iowa has the opportunity to be the center of growing the country's cow herd.
The pasture lands. We have some forage that we can produce. We have feedstuffs right here we produce. The infrastructure is there. We have integrated cropping systems with livestock systems.
The tariff-free imports are meant to last for 90 days. Whaley says this isn't enough time for producers to grow their cattle herds to meet demand. Today, Meta reached a nearly $18 billion settlement to end a landmark lawsuit. The deal resolved claims from 29 states that the company's platforms like Facebook and Instagram harmed young people's mental health. Under the agreement, Meta's payment will fund youth online safety initiatives in many states. As part of the settlement, Meta does not admit to any wrongdoing. Under the terms of the settlement, Meta is required to restrict time children and teens can spend on Instagram and Facebook, especially overnight. During school hours, it can't send notifications meant to get them on the apps. Plus, Meta agreed to do more to prevent kids under the age of 13 from being on their platforms and take steps to reduce harmful content. Attorney General Brenna Bird, who filed Iowa's lawsuit, and childhood psychology experts agree that the changes are a big first step to protecting social media users.
Many of the effects that we see with children, we also see with adults too. We tend to care more about those with children because at least adults can know about what the risks are and make a choice that they're willing to accept those risks, whereas children often don't understand what the risks are, even if you explain them to them.
Meta will give Iowa more than $120 million as part of the settlement. Gentile says he'd like to see that money fund a media literacy program in Iowa schools. Meanwhile, Attorney General Bird is taking California's challenge to Paramount's $110 billion takeover of Warner Brothers Discovery to the U.S. Supreme Court. The deal is currently stuck in legal limbo. Bird and Montana's Attorney General filed a complaint asking the High Court to stop California and 11 other states from trying to block the deal. They argue federal regulators and dozens of competition authorities worldwide have already cleared the merger. In an op-ed she wrote for the Daily Wire website, Bird says in part, quote, "California is once again trying to be the country's regulator. And once again, California is defying common sense to raise costs around the country." The California's Justice Department says they're reviewing Bird's filing and will respond as appropriate. The city of Des Moines' budget crisis has led to a setback in getting a pro soccer stadium. Local 5's Brandon Wynn has the details.
This area of Des Moines was set to be developed to have a future professional soccer stadium. Des Moines now says the plans have changed.
The long journey to Des Moines receiving its first professional soccer team has reached a halt.
I think the one thing on the decision today was about the development around the soccer stadium with the Krause Group. And that's what ended today. Based on the fiscal constraints that we were given, really handed to us by our legislation.
The Krause Group was set to develop the land necessary for the Iowa Soccer Development Foundation to build a pro soccer stadium off of MLK. That deal is now off due to the ongoing Des Moines budget crisis.
We're under a lot of new fiscal constraints based on recent legislative changes, which is resulting in a lot of hard decisions that are having to be made, not just on large catalytic projects, but city operations as well.
The city explained that choosing to cut either land development or essential services was an unfortunate byproduct of the 2% property tax hike caps put in by the Iowa legislature. The Krause Group responded in a statement saying, in part, the goalposts have continued to move, creating uncertainty for anyone seeking to work with the city or make a significant long-term investment. Krause Group has always sought to invest in ways that serve the public good. Krause claims their proposal also included helping the city financially to avoid cuts to city services. However, despite the land development deal no longer being in play, Mayor Bozen says the stadium is still a go.
I think that we'll have more conversations, and whether the stadium goes in that site or not, is there other opportunities? Those are all things that could be up, but we are committed to soccer and economic development.
With no spot for the Iowa Soccer Development Foundation to build the stadium, the timeline on the project is currently unknown. The city says it will have to take a similar approach to all economic development opportunities going forward under the new tax law. In Des Moines, Brandon Wynn, Local 5 News.
Back to school just started, and for parents, that means getting back into the routine of early mornings, packed schedules, and making sure kids eat before heading to class. But breakfast doesn't have to be complicated to be nutritious. A dietitian says one easy way to start is finding foods that provide protein and calcium, then building from there.
Starting off with that base of the Greek yogurt, or again, a plant-based type of yogurt, that's going to give us calcium. That's also going to give us protein. And then to build off of that, how about we add some fruit? So for example, throw in some blueberries. Blueberries are actually called our brain food because the antioxidants found in the blue part of the blueberry is actually really important for memory, also just overall brain health.
So before you send your kids out the door, take a look at what's on that breakfast plate. A few simple additions could help give them the fuel they need to make it through the school day. And another thing that may come up as the year starts, ADHD symptoms. New school demands and expectations can be extra challenging when dealing with symptoms, especially if a child isn't diagnosed or getting treatment. One professional says those symptoms depend on age and gender. For boys and elementary level students, it's more common to see hyperactive behavior like fidgeting or running around. Girls tend to be more inattentive, and they might struggle to pay attention during lessons or have a hard time finishing homework. Other common signs include leaving important school items behind.
So what we see in like school age kids quite a bit is like, do they lose things a lot? Are they, I work with kids with ADHD all the time, and I don't know how many stories of how many coats and shoes and lunch boxes, are lost on a day-to-day basis. Are they forgetful? Like, do they forget to do just kind of daily activities, forgetting to brush their teeth, forgetting to put their shoes on?
Nicholas says these signs can be normal behaviors in children, but when they start getting in the way of daily functioning and happen frequently, they can become a problem.